welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the MVP Show. Today's guest is from Missouri. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Hey, great for having me. Appreciate it.
Alan, I always like to start with food, family, and fun. The side of you that's not in the technical limelight. What do they mean to you? Food, family, and fun.
Oh man, food, man, that's a tough one. Probably Italian is Italian or Mexican food across the board, my favorite. So yeah, I'm not too far from Kansas City, so barbecue would be a really close third from that. So family, let's see, I've got my wife and I have raised 4 boys, ages now from 23 to 27. From that, we have 3 grandsons and 1 granddaughter, with 1 grandson on the way. So they are wasting no time. So that is a lot of that. Fun, mostly the lake. We just got back from our lake house. We trying to get maybe one more after this lake day on the boat. We'll see. It's cooling down, but yeah, that's a big part of what we do. And my wife and I, we're at a point where she can travel with me, which is nice. We went to Memphis to get at a conference I just did there. She's going to Austin with me, and she's going to Dallas with me. So we're at a really good spot where she could do that. So we do enjoy traveling, and whether that's around conferences or fun, going on cruises, we'll do that in April, go down to Honduras. So that's a lot of it. But lake by far is anything around waters are our family time.
So what were you doing in November 2022? ChatGPT hit the world stage. We're all at different places in our tech career. How have things changed for you from that, the last couple of years? How has AI entered the scene for you, Copilot and the likes? How's it changed what you do?
I got to tell you, it has completely transformed really my entire direction as far as my focus around the 365 stack. Honestly, I have, and it's funny, I tell people, if I'm going back 10, 12 years, I've got PowerPoint presentations to tell people why they should not go to Microsoft 365, right? Or back in those days, it was just, it was pretty much email, right? Syncing through all of that. And so then I've always been an Exchange guy all the way back to 5 days. I was always that guy. And then of course, as that evolved into the cloud and Exchange Online, and then that expanded into the whole collaboration space when we were talking Teams and SharePoint, how it all kind of meshes together. And I will never forget, I was on the phone with a friend of mine, a guy I worked with for years, was talking about this Chat GPT. And honestly, I had never really given it much thought. It was several years ago, and I never really thought a little bit about it. I've heard some of the AI stuff. And honestly, we tell our clients all the time, AI is nothing new to Microsoft. They've been doing it for decades. When you think of flash fill in Excel, right? That's looking for patterns and things that it can, you know, and the focused inbox inside of Outlook, right, is using some algorithm to kind of determine what should be focused versus not focused. So nothing new to Microsoft. But then when this started evolving in Copilot, I always tell clients, Microsoft has a tendency to kind of start flat. They just do. In my opinion, I think Microsoft kind of goes to market a little bit early on some things. Reason that they do is because they're so focused on the compliance side of things and the security side of things. They want to make sure that is right before they really introduce good quality into the product. But now when we fast forward, so a lot of the negative things I hear about Copilot today, it's a year and a half, 2 years old. It's thinking in the last 6 months, anybody that's worked with Copilot in the last 6 months, really since Frontier, it's a completely different product today. Microsoft has definitely gotten their feet under them on this. even just this last week, when you're talking, you know, agent mode in Excel and Word, and the analyst agents and the researcher and all of the stuff, introducing Claude into there as well now, right? So when Microsoft gets going, nobody competes with them. It's just they are a little slow to start. But where it has taken me in the last year, honestly, I don't know that I would be, because this is my first year MVP. I don't know I would be an MVP without Copilot, because it really lit a fire under me. And even though I've always spoken at conferences and I've helped communities, I've tried to do that. But I think that this was I tell people this is the best thing Microsoft came out with, the Teams back in 2017. And I think it's even more than that. But what we tell our clients all the time is that, when me and my trainer on my staff, we run a Jumpstart program for Copilot to help organizations get going with Copilot. And what we tell them all the time is, today, as much as all the greatness you're seeing in Copilot, it's as bad today as it's ever going to be. So, when you think of that, but it really, I would say, accelerated and motivated me to really, I feel like Microsoft has a much bigger story to tell. And as part of that evangelist for 365, we all now have a better story to tell around that. And so really, that's, if you go, I have a newsletter that I put out. Almost 99% of the content there is about Copilot. I'm doing YouTube now, relatively new, but that's mostly about Copilot. Every topic I speak on is about Copilot for the most part. It's just, yeah. So it has definitely accelerated and really changed the direction. Instead of just 365 status quo. Okay, great. Teams is awesome. SharePoint's cool. But what Copilot's now doing, and now the knowledge agent inside of SharePoint, every day, 250 changes between now and December is coming out. So
When you first engage a new company and they've decided that they're going to acquire the $30 SKU from Microsoft, they're going to get Copilot in for that. How do you take, and with their executives are saying, hey, will we get a return on investment? Like, how do you make sure, or how do you enable an organization to really get to the point where there's no longer a discussion that the value exchange of the price of the product to what the staff get in return, it's a no-brainer?
yeah, that's a great one. When I first heard about the price point that Copilot was going to land, I was like, wow, that's not too far off of an E3 license, right? I mean, that's kind of steep. But then as I started really digging into it myself, and as it matured and the product started really growing, and I started running some ROI numbers myself, and I started just the numbers themselves. For example, if a person is drawing a salary of 70,000 US dollars a month, a year, they only have to save themselves 54 minutes a month in order to recoup that time, that value. So when you start thinking, if I can save $54 a month, and I've got somebody that's making 70,000, of course, if it's double that, then it's double the time. But I save that every day, every day. Microsoft has a stat, and I've seen it firsthand. 83% of their people see that it saves them about 29% of their day. So almost a third of their day. So, way that translates from Copilot, what I do when I get on a call with a client, I had several today. I give them some baseline questions to make sure that Copilot's going to be the right fit for them in general, and then I shift to, let me not talk about it. Let's show you what it does. And so that's where we introduce our Jumpstart program, and that's a program that my trainer, who used to train for, a very large software training company that's out there, even trained Microsoft's executives on their own product. So, this guy came available. I've known him for years. We hired him. He's on my team. He and I developed a Jumpstart program because more often than not, we come across a client that says, well, I bought 5 Copilot licenses and I really don't know what to do with it. I'm not really sure how to use it. And so they become frustrated, and then they don't get any return on that investment because they can't see the value. So that's a situation where I say, let us walk you through it. Let us do a jumpstart where we take you through Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, Outlook, and OneDrive and show you what it does in each of those apps. I'm just going to throw spaghetti on the wall and you tell me if anything sticks, right? So that's what we do. And by the time they're done, they're like, that's going to save us so much time, just in Teams, maybe just in Outlook, maybe in Excel, but somewhere we've seen some value, and this is going to save us a ton of time. It's a We've done probably 30 or 40 of those of Jumpstart, and not a single time have we left that conversation and a client says, I don't think Copilot's going to work for us. Not a single time. We've always gotten work out of it too. So the value and the return on it is really a no-brainer. It looks steep at first, but when you start looking at the amount of time it saves you, I actually had a client say, what do we do with all of the time we've gotten back?
That's amazing. That's amazing. In the various organizations you've worked in, have you found use cases that kind of took you by surprise, that you were like, oh, I hadn't thought of that? Or, as people start embedding it into their workflow and their daily business processes, has anything taken you by surprise, as into a novel or a new, unique way people are using it to improve their work days?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing. I don't know if it was so much of a surprise, other than what I tell people is, because, there's a side of Copilot that people don't even realize exists, and that's the whole agentic side of Copilot. They're used to the day-to-day productivity. Oh, it's in Teams, and oh, I see it over here in OneDrive and in Outlook and now in SharePoint and all of that. It's front and center, right? You open a Word document, it's like Copilot, Copilot, Copilot. It's everywhere, right? But when I introduce them to the agentic side of Copilot, and basically I tell them, if you can imagine, if Power Automate can do it, then Copilot can do it. If you just think of it that way. And so when you think about probably I don't know if it's as unique, but we do get requests for organizations that say, like if it's a recruitment organization and they want emails that come in that have a resume attachment. They want that resume to kind of be sift through by Copilot. Then maybe have that resume taken into a SharePoint site, sort it, categorize it, add it to a SharePoint list, do all of this thing, and then start sending notifications out to, hey, here's a candidate for this, particular role, this position. We definitely see that sort of a situation pretty often. Anymore, not a whole lot necessarily surprises me, but we definitely come across a lot of unique situations. Our industry, or our business for our organization, is mostly in the private equity. So we deal with a lot of financial firms. And so the biggest ask that we get, and the biggest part of that conversation, is governance and compliance. And so the security of it all, and that's where even in our Jumpstart, we demo kind of how the security follows a document. For example, if you have a label or classification on that document, it follows that doc. We demo this, and we do emphasize the importance of getting your data ready, making sure you're not over permissioning and oversharing. And so, but that's probably the biggest vertical that we deal with. So a big question of compliance and governance, which is why I tell clients, yeah, you can use ChatGPT and you can drag data into your uh, context of your conversation, but where does it go from there? I'm not really sure. But if Copilot, I know exactly where it goes. It stays within that governance boundary. So it's a big conversation we have. But I don't I don't know that anything really necessarily surprises me, but we do have a lot of use cases. Because we deal with manufacturers that, you know, product comes in, or a customer has a question about a certain SKU that they're doing, and we do autonomous agents where that agent automatically looks up everything that customer's asking about from a known knowledge source, SharePoint site or documents, and responds to that email with nobody even having to see the email. That customer's just getting answers back through email. use an autonomous agent. That's probably the most unique one right now, but we're coming across different use cases all the time.
Have you come across any resistance in some of the organizations that you're in where people are perhaps they've seen the media, they're concerned that AI is going to take their role and therefore that's projected then onto their implementation of Copilot?
I do see some hesitation there sometimes, but we try to spin it in a way that Copilot is your assistant. Think of it like you're hiring somebody else to help you. It's not to take your job. In fact, in order to comfort folks, I tell people that Copilot still, I've not, this is a number from Microsoft. I've not seen this true in my own experience, but like with Excel, Copilot's accuracy is at 57%, which is way above everything else. But the human accuracy is still at 73%. So it still needs eyes and ears to see what's happening. In fact, on Microsoft's website, absolutely no joke, it says serious bodily harm or injury or death could occur, essentially relying solely on Copilot in certain situations. In other words, you don't want to rely on Copilot for life or death situations, medical practice, for example. You don't want to rely on it for financial decisions. Sure, it does good modeling, it does good forecasting, but you don't want to rely on it there. There's still human interaction needed, and I think that's not going to change. The way I look at it, and I wrote an article about it a long time ago, is you're an agent boss. So you have a bunch of little agents, and you just kind of tell them to go, do things on their own, if you will. But that's how we describe Copilot is it's literally like a Copilot. It's there to help you. It's not the pilot, it's the Copilot. And I think it's intentional. So
When you get into the compliance side, are you looking at it fully from tools like Purview and Sentinel and the other Microsoft products that provide that level of governance? Or do you also take organizations on the kind of, things like AI councils and really be thinking about AI a lot more strategically than just hey, it's a new fancy new software tool that we're using at the moment. And really, I suppose, re-engineering the way we work. How much of those type of conversations are you seeing with customers?
quite a bit. In fact, my team, we do talk about having an AI governance board or some sort of governance committee. We do frame those for organizations. We write policies. We help organizations write policies around AI and governance and responsible AI, right? But from a technical standpoint, it doesn't get any better than DSPM for AI inside of Purview in monitoring what's happening, not only Copilot, but any AI that's running in the environment, whether it's hitting sensitive data or whether somebody's asking unethical things. It'll pull all of that information in, whether it's Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, it doesn't matter. If it's hitting 365, Copilot or Purview is aware of it. It is an E5, so you do require an E5 compliance, which because of the nature of a lot of our clients, they are on at least a compliance E5, so it's an easy discussion with them. But absolutely, again, the technical side is there in Purview, but it doesn't replace human, you know, presence, interaction with actual policies, written policies, right? So
Very good, very good. As we wrap up, tell me what's the best bit of advice you'd give to people considering implementing Copilot in their organization?
have an understanding of your data. Copilot is about the data. Copilot is not going to access anything that you don't already have access to. So that's key. And that's something a lot of people are afraid of. And initially, that they're like, oh, we're going to unleash AI into our environment. What's it going to surface and all this? Look, it's no different than Delve. It's no different than OneDrive. It's connecting all of the dots. So don't be afraid of it. But at the same time, do some legwork. Make sure your data is not over permission to overshared. The other thing is start off with a pilot group. I always start off with executives that probably have access to everything anyway, because you get them on it's just going to filter down. They're going to like, oh, Sally in HR needs this, and everybody's going to need this. So get your ducks in order as far as protecting your data. Make sure that you're good there. Start off with a pilot group, and then technically treat it as if it's an assistant. Give it very detailed instructions when you're working with it. I want you to write this, draft this article, draft this job description, and I want these things to be in it, in this tone, and all of this. Very casual conversations. You don't have to talk like you're a programmer or think like a robot or any of that. It's just very natural language, and have fun with it. That's it. You're not going to hurt anything. Just look Copilot, just do it. And that's the biggest thing, is just have fun. And literally, I talk to Copilot so much, sometimes I actually find myself apologizing to Copilot because I misstated something. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird because we're literally living completely immersed in that environment. So.
Alan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I love your tip there about get the executives on board. They'll see the value and drive it out to the organization. Thank you again for coming on the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me anytime. Thanks.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.